going to show you how to make a ham, cheese and tomato ribbon sandwich, and it's actually going to be a 3-layer sandwich. So in this bowl, I've got some Dijon mustard. So Dijon mustard is French mustard. It's from, Dijon is a place in France. So we've got some Dijon mustard in there, some whole egg mayonnaise, but you could use whatever mayonnaise you want. And we've got some ham. So I've cut that ham up into strips, and that's gonna make our filling. So I'm just gonna mix that up. As always, I'm gonna put a little bit of seasoning in, so salt and pepper. So that can just go into our mix that we're making here. So just stirring that up, it's going to get a bit sticky, and that's fine. Now what I'm going to do, you can see my 3 pieces of bread. So I've got 2 white and 1 brown piece of bread. So the snack it's going to be is going to be white bread, brown bread, and then white bread on the bottom. So what I want to do, and I'm just following my method here, is on one piece of white bread, spread this ham mixture. So just want to make sure that's sort of spread out, and going out to the edges, we're going to cut our crusts off, so we don't need to take it right over the edge. We don't want to waste our filling, but we do sort of want an even spread. And when we're making ribbon sandwiches, that means like straight long pieces of sandwich. So we're going to get 3 ribbon sandwiches out of this, and you know, so we want to make sure we're spreading our filling evenly. So that's that 1 layer done. With my brown bread, I want to butter it or put some margarine on it. And the reason I want to put that on this layer is because we're putting some tomato on it. So when we put tomato on things, it tends to make it go a little bit soggy, and a soggy sandwich isn't a particularly nice sandwich. So just be a little bit careful with that. With tomatoes, sometimes if they're really juicy, you might want to get some paper towel and kind of pat them just to dry them out a little bit, and that's fine. So with mayonnaise, we don't need to put butter and mayonnaise on because that's just a little bit too much. So I'm going to put my tomato on here, sort of spreading it out. I've made sure I don't have the eye in my tomato. And then I'm going to put some cheese on. Now, if you had 1 slice of cheese, that's probably going to make it a whole lot easier for you. But we're using what we have. Now, then we're going to go butter side down and then stack our sandwich up. So if you can, kind of keep the tops of the breads lined up because that makes it easier. Now, what we need to do is we need to cut this. So I'm going to use my chef's knife. If you have a bread knife, you could use that too. It depends what you want. Now, I'm going to start by cutting the crusts off. So sawing gently. Now, you can see that I'm not squashing my sandwich. We're not trying to make a squash sandwich. So very lightly pressing on my sandwich just so it doesn't fall apart. But just cutting the crusts off. And you can see there, not a lot of filling is coming out. That's good. So I've got my square of sandwich here with no crust. I want to cut that into 3 even ribbons, or fingers, I suppose you could call it. And this is where it starts to fall apart. So you do need to be a little bit careful. Now to present, oh, I can see some of my cheese has fallen out. I'll just poke that back in there. To present, I've got a dark plate here because it's going to make our filling show up. And I could stack 2 like that. Bring this bit back in, and I might stack this one here like that. And wipe off my plate. There we go. That is my ham, cheese, tomato ribbon sandwich. Hi there. Welcome back. We are now going to be making curried egg and lettuce triangle sandwiches. So I've got 2 pieces of bread, so 1 brown bread, 1 white bread. I've put some butter or margarine on the brown bread because that is where I'm going to put my lettuce. So I'm going to stick my lettuce a little bit to that, to the butter. So we're going to use it as a bit of an adhesive. And in my bowl over here, I've got some salt and pepper, some mayonnaise, some whole egg mayonnaise, but you can use whatever you've got, some curry powder, and I've got a grated egg. So this is 1 egg. I've hard boiled it. So cooked it, put the egg in the saucepan, cold egg, cold water, brought that to the boil, boiled it for sort of 5 or 10 minutes, checked it how cooked it is. Then I've peeled it and grated it, and I'm going to add that to my mixture here. So grated egg. If I find grating easier to do, you can mash it with a fork if that's what you prefer to do. But when you're doing lots and lots and lots of sandwiches or lots of eggs like this, mashing with a fork is really tricky. So I find grating easier. Now all I've done is mix that together really, really quick and simple. And I'm going to get my spoon, pop that on my piece of bread here, and just sort of smear that out. So triangles, we want even spread of filling so our triangles stick together. I'm sure you've been to a function where the triangles are all falling apart. That is not ideal. Now, we're going to flip that onto that. Give it a little squash. We're not squeezing. We don't want all our filling to fall out. And now what we're going to do, because I've used the bread that we have and not gone and bought super fresh bread, I've got 2 different sizes of bread. So you can see the white piece is a little bit bigger than the brown piece. What I'm going to do is I'm going to trim the crust off. Technically for triangle sandwiches we don't have to, but in this instance I'm going to. I think it'll just be a bit more consistent. So using a chef's knife, I'm not using a bread knife. You could if you wanted, but the chef's knife does a pretty good job. I'm just trimming those crusts off so we don't have a lot of spare filling over here, little bits and pieces, but not much. Now I'm cutting through the middle. So again, we don't want to squash our sandwiches. So just gently sawing through, holding it together so it doesn't fall apart on our board, and then going the other way. So just being really quite gentle, trying not to squash it, and there we go. So little bits are falling off, that's okay. Now we're going to stack them up. I might put the triangles poking up because that looks a little bit cute and a bit textural.
Points.
Yeah, the points look nice. Now what we can do, if they're going to fall over, because sometimes they do a little bit, we can have one little buffer one on the end poking out. We could also have it over here. You could use a toothpick if that's what you wanted to do to hold them together. If you are buying this at a cafe or restaurant, you might get some chips or a salad on the side. You kind of use that to prop it up and make it look good. But there we have our egg and lettuce curried sandwiches.